She handed him her last protein pack without hesitating, even as every instinct screamed that he was a monster. He was a wounded alpha wolf of an alien species, deadly, prideful, and utterly merciless when at full strength. But in that crowded, danger-filled outpost, no predator dared draw close to him afterward. The wolf and the quartermaster. An outpost of predators. Iron divinity clung to the dead planet like a barnacle, its metal corridors extending like arteries through the planet's crust. Situated at the edge of a distant galaxy, the outpost served as a supply and trade center for a menagerie of apex predators from across the universe. The environment was harsh and unforgiving. Segregated atmospheric chambers, variable gravity flows, rickety metal corridors where the tech of hundreds of civilizations collided in an uneasy truce. Kara checked her atmospheric readings as she walked through the central corridor. The Terran bio-quartermaster's footsteps echoed against the metal walkway, her shadow dancing across the walls as she passed beneath flickering lights. At 32, she'd spent the last decade of her life on Iron Divinity, responsible for distributing food and medical supplies to some of the most fearsome hunters in the known universe, from Resmorian wolves to iceworm matriarchs. Born on a distant colony world, Kara had learned early that she belonged to no apex species. Her kind were merely tolerated here, practical, clever, but ultimately viewed as disposable. She adjusted her windweave jacket, designed to maintain stable pressure against her Terran body temperature, and continued her rounds. "Quartermaster," a gravelly voice called out. A hulking, crystalline behemoth, nearly 9 feet tall with translucent skin that caught the light in fractal patterns, blocked her path. "My ration card shows insufficient nutrient allocation." Kara didn't flinch. After years of facing creatures that could tear her apart with minimal effort, she'd developed a practical detachment. "Behemoth Zarax, your species requested triple rations last cycle, which depleted your quota. The Council's shipment arrives tomorrow. Until then, standard portions only." The creature's crystalline body hummed with irritation, but Kara held her ground. After a moment, it shifted aside. "Your kind," it rumbled, "always hiding behind rules and numbers." "Numbers keep this station functioning," Kara replied, continuing her path toward the supply depot. The year was 4962 after ignition. The standardized dating system since the Intergalactic Council had established Iron Divinity as a neutral zone. Faster-than-light travel was commonplace now, though the technology remained temperamental. The ancient outpost operated on salvaged parts and improvised solutions, much like the uneasy peace that existed between its inhabitants. Communication between species required a blend of symbols, encoded laser patterns, and vibrational diagrams. The Intergalactic Council theoretically coordinated the struggle for survival. But on Iron Divinity, rules were enforced by strength. The strongest apex predators claimed territory and resources, while humans like Kara were relegated to mid-tier logistical scroungers, necessary for keeping trade flowing, but never respected. Each apex species held economic importance. The crystalline behemoths mined precious minerals with their diamond-hard appendages. Resmorian wolves served as mercenaries, their tactical intelligence and physical prowess making them sought-after fighters. The iceworm matriarchs controlled vast territories rich in frozen gases and preserved ancient tech. Together, these species formed an ecosystem of power and resources, with humans serving as the connective tissue that kept the machine running. As Kara rounded the corner toward the medical supply depot, her comm unit beeped. "Neris, we've got 3 sandworm void hunters requesting emergency protein stabilizers. Their docking clearance checks out." "On my way," she replied, changing course. Just another day of keeping the predators fed, and keeping herself alive in the process. The wolf in the alley. During her night shift, Kara performed routine inventory checks in the medical storage facility in Corridor B4, a normally deserted section of the station. as she scanned shelves of synthetic blood packets and regeneration stimulants. Her light caught something unusual on the floor, a puddle of black liquid spreading across the metal plating. The scent of burned plasma hung in the air, acrid and unmistakable. Kara's heart quickened. She checked her scanner. No authorized Apex signatures in this sector. According to protocol, she should immediately report any unauthorized Apex presence. Instead, she lowered her light and followed the trail of moisture. What appeared to be sweat mixed with the black blood, leading to a sealed entrance, the miner's light shaft, an abandoned section that had been closed off after a gravitational accident 3 cycles ago. The access panel showed it had been manually forced. Something with considerable strength had broken in recently. Caution and common sense told her to call security. Protocol demanded it. But Kara had survived on iron divinity by trusting her instincts. She overrode the secondary lock, using her quartermaster clearance, and slipped inside. Her hand resting on the small plasma cutter she carried for maintenance work. The shaft was dark, illuminated only by emergency strips that cast everything in an eerie blue glow. The air tasted stale, with gravity fluctuating noticeably, evidence of the damage that had caused this section to be abandoned. Kara followed the trail deeper, her breathing measured and silent. In the farthest corner, partially hidden behind a fallen support beam, she found him. Urhax, alpha of the Resmorian wolf pack. 6 feet of corded muscle covered in midnight black fur, twin eyes glowing like electrical storms in the darkness. His massive arm was poorly bandaged, black blood seeping through makeshift wrappings. She recognized him immediately. His pack had docked at Iron Divinity 3 days earlier for negotiations with the Iceworm Matriarchy. A plasma wound, deep and severe, the kind that would incapacitate even the hardiest apex predator. The flesh around it was seared and blackened, and from the way he held himself, Kara could tell half his body was partially paralyzed. The wolf's breathing was labored, each exhale causing the viewport glass to vibrate slightly. When he sensed her presence, Urhax snarled, revealing teeth designed to shred through armor and bone. "Leave," he growled, the single word reverberating through the chamber. "Unless you wish to die here." Despite the threat, Kara noticed how he struggled to maintain his fierce posture. The wound was severe, plasma burns that had penetrated deep into muscle tissue. Without treatment, infection would set in within hours. Station regulations were clear. If any apex predator is discovered without safety identifiers, detain immediately. The policy existed for good reason. Wounded predators were unpredictable, dangerous, deadly. But Kara had spent enough time around apex species to recognize something else in Urhax's eyes. Beyond the aggression and pain was fear. The terror of vulnerability in a place where weakness meant death. She knelt slowly, opening her medical kit. "That plasma burn needs treatment," she said, keeping her voice neutral as she prepared a pain suppressant and temporary binding agent. When Urhax realized she was human, his lips curled back in a sneer. "Clean my corpse later, mid-tier. My life is not worth your scrambling." But Kara silently tossed her last protein ration pack into his reach. "Eat. If you don't, your exposed bones will cause more trouble for this station." Surprise flickered across the wolf's features. After a moment of tense silence, he snatched the pack with his good arm, tearing it open with his teeth. As he consumed the ration, Kara carefully approached, hypo-injector ready with the pain suppressant. "I'm going to numb the area," she explained, not asking permission. "The burn has compromised your neural pathways. Without treatment, you'll lose function in that limb permanently." Urhax growled, but didn't stop her as she administered the injection. The effect was almost immediate. His massive body relaxed slightly as the pain receded. "The Iceworm Matriarch," he said through gritted teeth. "She violated negotiation protocols. Attacked during designated neutral discussion." Kara worked quickly, cleaning the wound and applying temporary synth skin to prevent further contamination. Politics doesn't interest me, but if the matriarch did this, she'll be hunting you to finish the job. I will heal. Then I will tear her spine from her body, Urhax stated, as though it were simple fact. You won't heal hiding in a gravitationally unstable maintenance shaft, Kara countered. You need proper medical attention and a secure location. She finished the temporary dressing and stood. I can move you somewhere safer, or you can stay here and hope the matriarch's hunters don't track your blood trail. Urhax studied her. Electric blue eyes narrowed with suspicion. Why would you help me, human? My death would mean one less apex to distribute resources to. Kara packed up her medical kit. Because I'm not interested in who wins your power struggles. I'm interested in keeping this station running. A dead Resmorian Alpha creates instability, which makes my job harder. She didn't mention that helping him violated at least 7 station protocols, or that she'd be severely punished if discovered. Instead, she extended her hand, a gesture that felt absurd given their size difference. Can you walk? Urhax ignored her hand, but pushed himself upright, towering over her despite his injury. Lead, quartermaster, but know that if this is a trap, my dying act will be to separate your head from your shoulders. Noted, Kara replied dryly. Now, try not to drip blood on the main corridors. We've got enough problems already. Sealed corridors and hidden alliances. Under cover of night, Kara used her authorized personnel clearance to override security seals and guide Urhax to Sector A4, an abandoned chamber once used as a methane collection silo, now devoid of surveillance cameras. The journey had been perilous, requiring them to navigate maintenance shafts and avoid the occasional security patrol. This was once atmospheric processing, she explained as they entered the chamber. Decommissioned 3 years ago when we upgraded to the new filtration system. The space was vast but cluttered with abandoned equipment and storage containers. Dust particles danced in the beams of Kara's light. The air was stale but breathable. It stinks of human neglect, Urhax commented, his massive form hunched slightly from pain despite the medication. It's secure and off the grid, Kara countered, already setting up a portable oxygenator to stabilize the atmosphere. No one comes here, and the metal walls are reinforced with lead shielding that blocks biosignatures. She worked methodically, establishing a temporary life support system, adjusting the emergency lighting to a spectrum that wouldn't attract attention from outside. From her maintenance kit, she retrieved disinfectants and proper medical supplies. Then, carefully removed the temporary dressing on Urhax's wound. The injury was worse in proper light. Plasma had burned through muscle and exposed bone in places. Using a specialized carbon weave binding, rare technology only humans had perfected, she created a proper dressing. This will accelerate cellular regeneration, she explained, securing the binding. It's human tech, but compatible with your physiology. Urhax watched her work, his expression unreadable. You have done this before, he observed. Aided apex predators against protocol. Kara didn't confirm or deny. Hold still. This part will hurt. As she applied the final binding, Urhax didn't flinch, though she knew the pain must have been excruciating. The wolf's stoicism was impressive, even by apex standards. During those first days of recovery, Urhax struggled with his forced helplessness. Never before had he, an apex predator, depended on a lesser being for survival. His frustration manifested in growls and occasional outbursts. The ice worm will pay in blood, he snarled during one of Kara's visits. Take me to the arena so I may challenge her directly. Kara shook her head as she changed his bandages. You need to live first. The plasma damaged your neural pathways. Rush recovery, and you'll never regain full strength. You do not understand Apex honor, Urhax growled. Every day I hide, my status diminishes. I understand survival, Kara replied evenly. And survival sometimes requires patience. Meanwhile, rumors spread through Iron Divinity. The iceworm matriarch, Shiverscale, had lost track of Urhax and was growing suspicious, frequently patrolling near the methane extraction chambers. She had publicly declared, "The careless one will taste the ice." Kara heard whispers from other quartermasters about bounties being placed on information regarding Urhax's whereabouts. Most troubling were reports that a horde of Red Talons, notorious slavers who hunted anything larger than alpha hawks, had been contracted for a substantial reward to capture either Urhax or anyone harboring him. "The station is watching," Kara informed Urhax on her fourth visit, bringing fresh supplies and nutrient-dense food. "Shiverscale has placed bounties. The Red Talons have been contracted." Urhax, slightly stronger but still severely injured, bared his teeth. "Let them come, even wounded. I can tear apart Red Talons." "Not in this condition," Kara insisted. "And fighting would expose your location to the matriarch." She checked the medical bindings, noting with satisfaction that the carbon weave was accelerating healing as intended. Another week, maybe 2, and he might regain enough function to defend himself properly. "Why continue this risk?" Urhax asked suddenly. "The longer you harbor me, the greater your danger." Kara considered the question as she reprogrammed the oxygenator. "Iron Divinity operates on balance. The iceworm matriarchy has grown too powerful. If they eliminate you, the power vacuum destabilizes trade routes." It wasn't the complete truth, but it was the explanation that made most sense to an apex predator's mentality. Urhax studied her with those electric blue eyes. "You lie well, Quartermaster, but not well enough." Kara shrugged. "Believe what you want. Just don't leave this chamber until I say it's safe." As she turned to go, Urhax spoke again. "My pack, have they departed?" The question caught her off guard. Concern for others seemed unlike an alpha predator. "No. They maintain your docking rights, claiming you're in private negotiation, but they won't be able to sustain that pretense much longer." Urhax nodded, saying nothing more, but something in his posture had changed. A determination beyond mere survival had taken root. Engineering survival. Over the next several days, Kara devoted her off-duty hours to optimizing Sector A4. She installed an atmospheric scrubber MKV, cutting-edge filtration technology she'd requisitioned from a recent supply shipment, to maintain a specialized gas mixture suitable for both Resmorian and Terran physiology. The hybrid environment was crucial, as Urhax required diluted CO2 for optimal respiratory function. "You're tampering with station resources," Urhax observed as Kara calibrated the scrubber. "This will be noticed." "I've adjusted the inventory system," she replied, not looking up from her work. "On record, this unit was damaged during transport and sent for recycling." She had also modified the thermal regulation system to provide consistent warmth for the plasma wound, critical for proper healing, and installed ultrasonic sensors to detect the distinctive footfalls of Red Talon hunters. "The frequency is calibrated specifically to their bone density," she explained, showing Urhax the small monitoring device. "If they come within 30 meters, this will alert us." Urhax watched her work with growing curiosity. For a creature accustomed to solving problems through dominance and force, Kara's technical solutions represented an entirely different form of power. "Your species," he said. "They consider you expendable, yet you possess knowledge that even the crystalline behemoths with their ancient memories do not grasp." Kara adjusted the final calibration before responding. "Humans adapt. We engineer solutions because we lack natural weapons." "A different kind of apex," Urhax mused. As his physical condition improved, Urhax faced internal conflict. His identity had always been defined by strength and dominance. "I ruled the Withered Stone territories," he confessed during one of their longer conversations. "My pack controlled trade routes spanning 3 systems, Now I hide like prey. But when pain medication wore off, he recognized that Kara's talents and patience were formidable in their own way. His predatory instinct wanted to roar and kill anything that threatened him. But reason, for perhaps the first time, feared that fighting in his current state would be fatal. "If I return to my pack weakened," he admitted reluctantly, "I will be challenged. Tradition demands it." "Then don't return until you're stronger than when you left," Kara suggested pragmatically. "Use this time to understand your enemies better." Outside their hidden sanctuary, pressure mounted. News of a surviving Resmorian had leaked, prompting the Apex Classification Council to dispatch the Black Eyebrow Legion, elite soldiers loyal to the Iceworm Matriarch, to maintain order. Though their true purpose was hunting Urhax, Kara faced increasing scrutiny. Random inspections of supply requisitions became more frequent. Twice she was questioned about discrepancies in her distribution logs. If discovered harboring an apex predator, she would face severe punishment, possibly even purging, the euphemistic term for execution on Iron Divinity. During one particularly close call, a Black Eyebrow patrol nearly discovered their route to Sector A4. Only Kara's intimate knowledge of the station's maintenance systems and a hastily triggered coolant leak had diverted them. "They're tightening the net," she told Urhax afterward, still breathless from the encounter. "We need to accelerate your recovery." Urhax, now able to move his injured arm with limited dexterity, nodded grimly. "The binding technology works well. Another cycle, perhaps two." Kara shook her head. "We may not have that long. The Matriarch is pressuring station administration. They've authorized enhanced biosignature scanning in all sectors." She sat heavily on a storage container, fatigue evident in her posture. For 2 weeks, she had maintained her regular duties while secretly caring for Urhax, sleeping only a few hours each night. Urhax studied her with newfound perspective. "You risk much for balance, Quartermaster." "For survival," she corrected. "Mine and yours." He approached, towering over her seated form. "I have observed you. You create weapons from air filters, shields from power conduits. You understand something my kind has missed. That environment itself can be controlled." Kara looked up, surprised by his insight. "That's how humans survived when surrounded by apex species. We couldn't outfight you, so we learned to manipulate the conditions around us." Urhax extended his massive, clawed hand, a gesture that had meaning across species. "When I regain my strength, the Iceworm will fall, but not through traditional combat. I would learn your methods, Quartermaster." Kara hesitated only briefly before taking his hand, a symbol of alliance between Predator and Engineer. "Then let's prepare, for both of us." That night, they began planning not just for Urhax's recovery, but for what would come after. Using Kara's technical knowledge and Urhax's strategic mind, they developed a system of traps and environmental modifications that would transform Sector A4 from sanctuary to fortress. Neither realized they were forging something unprecedented on Iron Divinity, a symbiotic alliance that would soon challenge the fundamental hierarchy of the station. A battle of bones and bolts. The warning came shortly after midnight. Ultrasonic sensors detecting the distinctive bone density of red talon hunters approaching from the western access shaft. Simultaneously, thermal readings indicated the heavier footfalls of Black Eyebrow Legion soldiers entering through a breach in the side compartment. "They've found us," Kara whispered, activating emergency protocols on her tablet. The chamber's ambient lighting dimmed to near darkness, switching to a spectrum invisible to red talon visual receptors. Urhax rose from his resting position, his massive form silhouetted against the emergency backup lights. Though not fully healed, the wolf stood tall, the carbon weave bandages now more a reinforcement than a necessity. "How many?" "6 red talons. 4 Legion soldiers," Kara reported, reading from the sensor data. "They're testing the air with plasma scanners. They'll trigger the alarm soon. She moved quickly to the hidden switches embedded within the piping system, executing the plan they had meticulously prepared. With precise timing, she reversed the atmospheric flow, suddenly pumping nitrogen mixed with a compound specifically designed to temporarily paralyze red talon visual cortices. The chamber's temperature plummeted as auxiliary cooling units activated, creating a dense fog that further obscured visibility. Through the mist, plasma bolts flashed as the Legion soldiers fired blindly into the chamber. Now, Kara signaled, activating the second phase. Urhax needed no further prompting. Despite his still healing injury, he tore free from the restrictive bandages and launched himself at the first Legion soldier, who breached the entrance. His claws sank deep through the light armor, ripping through synthetic fibers and into flesh. The wolf's roar reverberated through the chamber as he dragged his opponent into the artificially created darkness, the strobing laser sights and swirling smoke creating a disorienting battlefield engineered by Kara. Meanwhile, Kara wielded her plasma cutter with surgical precision. The maintenance tool, never designed as a weapon, had been modified to project a narrow, intensely hot beam that could intercept plasma bolts mid-flight. She calculated trajectories with practiced ease, the beam slicing through incoming projectiles and creating cascading energy discharges that further disoriented their attackers. She targeted the mechanical joints of heavy armor, the superheated beam melting connection points and causing Captain Craig's exoskeleton to malfunction. The Legion commander, a veteran iceworm soldier, stumbled as his left leg hydraulics failed, cursing in the sharp, crystalline language of his kind. "The human sides with the wolf!" he shouted to his squad. "Take them both!" The battle intensified as Red Talon hunters recovered from the initial gas attack. Their slender, avian forms darted through the chamber, specialized capture nets ready to deploy. But Kara had anticipated this, activating the ion disruptor function she'd integrated into the piping system. The electromagnetic pulse traveled through the conductive metal flooring, sending feedback into the energy nets and transforming them into temporary energy barriers. Captain Craig's pushed through the chaos, his remaining functional armor systems allowing him to locate Urhax despite the environmental interference. "Face me, wolf," he challenged. "Or are you now a coward who hides behind human tricks?" Urhax, relying on his wounded arm for the first time since his injury, met the challenge head-on. Despite Craig's technological advantages, the wolf's natural strength and speed proved superior. Within moments, Urhax had torn through the weakened armor, his claws finding vulnerable flesh beneath. "The coward," Urhax snarled into the dying captain's face, "was the one who violated negotiation protocols. Tell your matriarch, next time, I come for her directly." The remaining Red Talon hunters, witnessing their employer's defeat, attempted to retreat, launching energy nets in desperation. Kara responded by increasing the ion disruptor's output, causing the station's power conduits to temporarily reverse flow and create an energy shield that turned the hunters' own weapons against them. When the Legion forces seemed on the verge of overwhelming them through sheer numbers, Urhax released a prolonged howl that stimulated combat hormones throughout his system. The sound, primeval and terrifying, echoed through the chamber as the wolf temporarily broke through the plasma wound's neural restraints, giving him extraordinary strength to finally crush the remaining soldiers. Kara, exhausted from continuously manipulating electrical circuits and wielding the plasma cutter, leaned against Urhax as they escaped through the secret emergency tunnel she had prepared. Behind them, alarms blared as station security finally responded to the disturbance, too late to capture either the quartermaster or the wolf. "The chamber is compromised," Kara panted as they emerged into an unused maintenance corridor 3 sections away. "We need a new sanctuary." Urhax, also, breathing heavily from exertion, nodded. "The battle is won, but the war continues." He looked down at his arm, where fresh black blood seeped through the damaged carbon weave. "Your technology saved my life today, Quartermaster," "And your strength saved mine," she acknowledged. "We need to move quickly. The entire station will be searching for us now." As they disappeared deeper into Iron Divinity's labyrinthine infrastructure, neither realized they had just shattered centuries of established hierarchy. A human and an apex predator had fought as equals, and won. From hunter to guardian, the aftermath of the battle left Sector A4's entrance severely damaged. Ventilation pipes ruptured and atmospheric regulators failing. Yet, through Kara's technical expertise and Urhax's growing understanding of environmental manipulation, they rapidly repaired the essential systems according to the fluid diagrams Kara had memorized. The captured Red Talon hunters, facing defeat, accepted a negotiated settlement. They would withdraw and report to their superiors that the human and Resmorian have fortified the chamber beyond our capacity to breach. "They'll return with greater numbers," Kara warned, as she treated Urhax's reopened wound. The battle had set his healing back, though not catastrophically. "Let them," Urhax replied, watching her work with newfound respect. "We have proven what your engineering and my strength can accomplish together." Word spread through Iron Divinity's communication channels. What began as rumors solidified into acknowledged fact. A Terran quartermaster and a Resmorian alpha had successfully repelled an elite force. More significantly, they had done so not through traditional combat alone, but through environmental manipulation, turning the very infrastructure of the station into a weapon. In the days that followed, Urhax transformed from a hunted fugitive into something unprecedented. Guardian of A4, the lone immovable force protecting the station's top-tier chambers. What had been a hideout became recognized territory, respected even by rival apex species. Most surprising were the visitors who began arriving at the newly reinforced entrance to Sector A4. First came a young iceworm scout, not to attack, but to deliver a formal acknowledgement of Urhax's strength from a faction opposing the matriarch. Then, a blood elk representative arrived, offering trade opportunities. Even a crystalline behemoth elder made an appearance, curious about the alliance of species that had defied traditional power structures. "They seek to understand what we have created," Urhax observed, as he and Kara watched the latest delegation depart. "They cannot comprehend cooperation across species lines." "They'll learn," Kara replied, adjusting the atmospheric settings to accommodate their next visitor, a minor devourer from the outer systems who had requested consultation on adaptive territory establishment. Kara's status underwent its own transformation. No longer merely a supply distributor, she received an invitation to serve as infrastructure security consultant for the Intergalactic Council on Iron Divinity. The position came with unprecedented access to restricted areas and technical resources. Despite being offered a privileged pass to the Apex Mess Hall, a dining area traditionally reserved for the station's elite predators, Kara quietly declined, stating she preferred to continue fixing what's broken, building what's needed. Her response, reported throughout the station, only enhanced her growing reputation. Humans who had once avoided eye contact now sought her guidance on technical matters. Apex species who had previously dismissed her kind as mid-tier scavengers now requested her specific attendance at territorial negotiations. "You could leverage this influence," Urhax suggested during one of their strategy sessions. His recovery now complete. The wolf had reclaimed his physical prowess while retaining the tactical insights gained during his convalescence. "Demand concessions for your species." Kara shook her head, focused on modifying a new atmospheric regulator. "Power through demand creates resistance. Power through necessity creates dependence." Urhax considered this, then nodded slowly. "You engineer not just machines, but relationships. This is why you succeeded where others failed." Together, they expanded their territory beyond Sector A4, establishing a network of modified chambers that served both as secure zones and demonstration areas for their cooperative approach to station management. Species that had warred for generations now found neutral ground in these spaces, protected by both Urhax's fearsome reputation and Kara's environmental innovations. "The station is changing," Kara noted one evening, reviewing security logs that showed decreased violent incidents throughout Iron Divinity. "Adapting to a new model." "Not changing," Urhax corrected. "Evolving, as all successful species must." Legends of the Wolf and the Quartermaster. The story spread beyond Iron Divinity, traveling along trade routes and communication relays across the galaxy. A human supply quartermaster saved an apex predator and became the shadow guardian of an entire station. The tale grew with each retelling, sometimes exaggerated, but never diminishing the core truth of what had occurred. Distant outposts across the galaxy began establishing Kara's sectors, specialized isolation chambers for apex species, based on the environmental tactical knowledge she had pioneered. These zones became known for their adaptive atmospheric systems and ingenious security measures, creating safe havens where previously only conflict had existed. The Intergalactic Council, initially resistant to acknowledging the significance of this human-Resmorian alliance, eventually published an addendum to the Apex Classification Code. Species that gain dominance through symbiotic alliances with Terran logisticians and environmental engineers. The classification represented a fundamental shift in how power was understood throughout controlled space. Humans, once relegated to mid-tier scavengers, were reclassified as Enviro-Apex Synthesizers, a designation that recognized their unique ability to transform environments into strategic advantages. The change wasn't merely semantic. It came with increased resource allocations and representation on governing bodies. On Iron Divinity, Kara continued her work, now with an expanded team of human engineers and technicians recruited from throughout the sector. They implemented station-wide improvements, prioritizing systems that benefited all species rather than catering to traditional apex hierarchies. Urhax, fully recovered and stronger than before his injury, stood on the upper observation deck of Iron Divinity, his electric blue eyes gazing into the infinite void beyond. "I have found a true ally," he mused quietly. "Not merely a fur-covered warrior, but a legend maker." His gaze shifted to Kara, who was busy adjusting a malfunctioning intake valve several meters away. The Resmorian wolf had declined multiple opportunities to return to his pack, choosing instead to remain on Iron Divinity as the first official cross-species security coordinator. Under his guidance, traditional apex conflicts were increasingly resolved through environmental negotiation rather than direct combat. Shiverscale, the iceworm matriarch who had initially wounded him, had been deposed by her own council after attempting to launch a direct assault on Sector A4. Her replacement, a younger iceworm who recognized the changing power dynamics, had established formal diplomatic relations with both Urhax and Kara's coalition. "The concept of apex is evolving," Urhax had explained to a gathering of species representatives. "True dominance comes not from individual strength alone, but from strategic alliance and environmental control." Kara wiped sweat from her brow and smiled slightly as she finished repairing the valve. "Everything's stable, but we need to quickly fix the mineral light absorption module, assuming no new apex predators appear." She checked her communications device, which had been silent for the first time in weeks. "Actually, we might have a rare quiet day." Urhax joined her, his massive form now a comforting presence rather than a threat. "No system remains quiet for long. The universe ensures constant change." "That's why we adapt," Kara replied, already planning the next improvement. "Engineering isn't about creating perfect systems. It's about building resilient ones." As they walked together through the corridors of Iron Divinity, the human engineer and the Resmorian wolf, they embodied a new kind of partnership that was reshaping galactic power structures. Species that observed them no longer saw predator and prey. dominant and submissive. Instead, they witnessed the emergence of something unprecedented: complementary strength. "Do you regret it?" Urhax asked suddenly. "That first decision to offer your last protein pack to a wounded apex who threatened to kill you?" Kara considered the question seriously, as she did all things. No, it wasn't calculation or altruism. It was recognition. Of what? That survival requires more than strength or intelligence alone. It demands adaptation, finding new ways to thrive when old methods fail. Urhax nodded, understanding completely. "You saw potential where others saw only threat. And you recognized value where others saw only weakness," she countered. "Perhaps that's the true definition of apex, the ability to perceive opportunity beyond traditional boundaries." The legend of the wolf and the quartermaster continued to grow, inspiring similar partnerships throughout the galaxy. But on Iron Divinity, Kara and Urhax focused simply on their next challenge: the continuous work of transformation, one system at a time. In the harsh environment of space, where countless species competed for dominance, they had discovered a fundamental truth: control the environment, control the outcome. It was a lesson that would reshape the future of intergalactic relations for generations to come. And it had begun with a simple act: a human quartermaster offering her last protein pack to a wounded wolf, despite every instinct screaming that he was a monster. In that moment of connection, both had glimpsed a different path forward. One where traditional apex hierarchies gave way to something more powerful: strategic symbiosis. As Iron Divinity continued its orbit around the dead planet, Kara and Urhax stood side by side, extraordinary miners in a harsh universe, extracting possibilities from what others saw as limitations. Their story was just beginning.